Tough game against the Bears. And I say that not because the Bears are some sort of juggernaut in the league this year. I want to give them respect. They're definitely a young team that's starting to build, that's in the first year of an offense under new head coach Ben Johnson, and they're definitely going through those growing pains. You can see there's just spots where like there's miscommunications right between DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, and they're still all figuring out. And it's also Caleb Williams' first real year where he's probably properly supported as an NFL quarterback. So, not judging too harshly based on all this. So keep that in mind. But because they are a competent NFL team and they're going up against the Bengals Swiss cheese defense, I would expect for a very competitive game from the Bears, and maybe take some overs depending on Joe Flacco's health. We'll see. So without further ado, let's look a little bit closer. Starting with the offense, they are currently ranking 17th in EPA per play, 23rd in success rate, 18th in dropback EPA, and 14th in rushing success rate. Especially after the first couple weeks, you've really seen the run game come alive. Ben Johnson's always obviously schemed up a great run game with Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery in Detroit. Not surprising to see him kind of coax out a career resurgence a little bit from DeAndre Swift. So they've looked very good in their run game and their screen game as well. Really interesting kind of how they have their offense kind of split in their roles that they're using. Rome is having an excellent year, looking really, really good with Caleb right now. Being more of their downfield threat. You've got DeAndre and DJ Moore kind of helping with the underneath stuff as well as the tight ends, and occasionally Luther Burden. And that's really kind of just helped them to sustain kind of a little bit of a not necessarily a dink and dunk offense, because Rome gets an average depth of target of 14.1, which ranks 12th among receivers. But more so just to say they have very defined roles in this offense as they kind of feel things out, get more comfortable, start to develop some of these younger guys and get them more used to playing in the league as well as playing together and getting more acquainted with the system that they're in now. Caleb Williams, in terms of his production so far this year, like I said, this is kind of his redshirt freshman year, so to speak. Last year, we know the Bears' struggles were many, let's just say, and plenty of the reporting coming out in the offseason being that Caleb Williams was not properly supported, was not, really being helped to watch film and prepare for games properly. You've seen some areas of improvement. He's still 22nd out of 30 quarterbacks in PFF grade, and his completion percentage is 3.4% below expectation, which ranks 29th out of 34 quarterbacks. But he does have the 11th best big-time throw percentage this season, which is encouraging, although that does come with the 8th worst turnover-worthy play percentage. Something that you could definitely expect from a younger kind of rookie-ish quarterback. But the big time throw percentage is definitely very encouraging. And the accuracy, consistency issues with Caleb Williams are something that's, kind of been sticking around with him a little bit. And I think as he settles in a little bit, gets more comfortable with the offense, there's some injuries to their offensive line right now. But overall, I think as he gets a little bit more comfortable, you might see him settle down and kind of improve on those mechanics, have more faith in the offense, trusting receivers to be on the same page and kind of maybe throw people open a little bit. Although with the arm that Caleb Williams has, he has the Josh Allen effect of where you don't have to be early to a wide receiver. You can just throw the ball super hard and super fast and it'll get there. He's got one of those cannons. But yeah, overall, he's looking playable, which is a different story from last year. So I want to make sure that we are giving him credit as he is on a slight upward trajectory right now, hoping that he continues to develop well and he and Ben Johnson can find success over there in the NFC away from the Bengals. Looking at DeAndre Swift, just kind of touch on his numbers real quick. I talked about kind of a career resurgence from him after being cast off, and ironically enough, with the Detroit Lions at one time. I remember there being a whole stink and fuss about how he didn't practice hard and took days off and had migraines inconveniently, but seems to be doing all right down there across down there, over there. Let's just say west of Cincinnati over there in Chicago. Yeah. So he's 13th in yards per attempt so far this season. Really impressive there. He has 17 runs of 10 plus yards, which ranks 5th among running backs. And he's been very effective in the receiving game, especially on the checkdowns and in the screen game, averaging 1.52 yards per route run, which ranks 9th among running backs. And I want to give credit to Ben Johnson on this, and a little bit DeAndre Swift for sure. But also you can see when you look at, he only has 11 missed tackles forced, which ranks 28th out of 34 running backs. And so what that tells you is that DeAndre Swift is not necessarily creating these looks by himself. This is a lot of scheme and kind of designed yardage that are coming his way, but he is making the most of his opportunities. So credit where credit's due there. Luther Burden is battling a concussion right now and may not be able to play for this game. And he oftentimes can kind of come in and be their underneath screen guy. We're not going to be talking bets so much as a lot of the lines are not out just yet. But if I was looking at that with Luther Burden out, I would definitely look at like DeAndre Swift or DJ Moore as their receptions props, because they are going to fill that kind of like voided underneath role, or just pick up a little bit more of that role from Luther Burden if he's out. DJ Moore is currently 5th in yards after the catch per reception, and he's got a average depth of target of only 9.1, which is fairly low among receivers. He's just been a lot more of the underneath screen guy and kind of that kind of safety blanket as Rome works the patterns downfield and kind of does more of that traditional X receiver stuff. So yeah, that's definitely something I would be considering. Odunze has kind of ascended to the wide receiver 1 role on this team, in my opinion. DJ Moore, like I said, has been reliable and a very good option, especially in the screen game. But Odunze has just been killing it downfield in his second year. 15.3 yards per reception, 5 touchdowns, which ranks 8th among wide receivers. And like I said before, 14.1 average depth of target, which ranks 12th, which just lends itself to how impressive he's been, because these downfield routes and shots are much harder to produce on because they are much more high variance. So he has just really been impressive. And especially when you consider Caleb Williams being 3.5 points below expectation on completions, and kind of just having accuracy and on target issues, even the completed passes with Caleb. For the Joe Burrow fans, part of what makes him so great, his superpower is his ball placement. We know that on the back shoulders, leading receivers for yards after the catch opportunities, protecting them from defenders. That is something that Caleb Williams still has yet to kind of find the feel for. So you see even some of these completions on like in breakers, like the ball will come a little bit behind them or just right on their hip instead of being out in front of them. I think that just lends itself to make it more impressive, the production that Odunze has been able to manage this year. So want to give him his flowers. I think he could definitely be in store for a big game, depending on if DJ Turner can give him the Drago treatment, I guess. Looking at the offensive line, Joe 𝗙𝗎, free agent anchor on the offensive line, that has paid off massively. He's currently 2nd among all guards in pass blocking grade. Darnell Wright, a tackle that many Bengals fans are familiar with too, currently ranks 22nd of 79 tackles in PFF grade. So well above average, sitting in kind of that top quartile. Like those are 2 good offensive linemen there for the Bears that have kind of helped them stabilize their offense a little bit more and be able to rely on this run game, as is the performance from Drew Dahlman, who's been a really, really good center for them as well. The other 2 that they've got filling in right now, Benedette is filling in right now in lieu of injury. And then Jonah Jackson, another free agent signing that they've had, has not been as resounding a success as Joe 𝗙𝗎 does, sitting right around 55 grade overall with PFF right now. So if you're looking for weaker points on the Bears offensive line right now. Right guard and left tackle would be that. Um, be a great game to have a healthy Trey Hendrickson. Anyways, looking over at the defense, overall, they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. Um, Dominique Robinson also did not practice this week, already on the Wednesday report. Looks like Tyreek Stevenson did get in a limited practice, so that'll be good for him. But they are dealing with quite a few injuries. I think it's like 3 or 4 plus defensive backs plus 3 defensive linemen right now are all dealing with injuries. So it's tough to put too much stock into what they have going on defense right now because you don't necessarily know everyone who will be on the field come the Bengals game. But just overall, looking at their defensive numbers that they've been managed to accrue as a team on the season, they are 19th in EPA per play, 29th in overall success rate, 19th in drop back EPA, and 14th in rush EPA. And a lot of this has kind of come as a byproduct of all the injuries. The secondary has not been good. The pass rush has had its moments. Montez Sweat, Javon Dexter, Grady Jarrett. There are much worse defensive lines in the league, and I think the Bengals might have one of them. But it definitely, there's going to be opportunities for the Bengals against this defense. The question is, are they going to be able to take advantage of them? And is the Bengals defense going to be able to generate enough pressure? Sorry, don't mean to touch on raw spots for Bengals fans right now. But this is a Bears offense that scored almost 25 points in every single game. So you are going to have probably a high scoring affair coming from them. I don't believe the Bengals defense are going to hold them below their average per game. So I think that you are going to need to try and take advantage of just the injuries right now that they are decimated. And you're going to have to find ways to generate turnovers. If we look at the games that the Bengals win, it's because they were able to generate turnovers and win the turnover battle. And credit to Joe Flacco. I have said this and I still maintain and stand by it that you're not going to be able to continue to play with a guy who's had a very career high kind of overall turnover worthy play rate. He's got 0 turnover worthy plays so far, and that's only going to hold for so long. So as soon as the turnovers start coming back from the offense, because you're not going to play a perfectly clean game every single time, you're going to have to force these opportunities from Caleb Williams. So if we are talking about opportunities and how the Bengals can win this game, not necessarily do you have to pressure Caleb Williams. Yes, you want to try and get to him as much as you can, but out of his 9 turnover worthy plays, 5 have come when he was clean in the pocket. So those opportunities are going to present themselves just by the nature of having a younger quarterback who is a little inexperienced and in a new offensive system. Hopefully Jordan Battle, DJ Turner, Dax Hill can pick up some of these maybe errant, inaccurate throws or poor decisions and try and give the Bengals offense a little bit of a chance. When I look at the Bears defense, you're pretty much just going to have to try and take advantage of this weakened and injured secondary. And fortunately, the Bengals do have the horses to make that happen. But as we talked about earlier, if you're going to encounter problems where I bet the Bears are looking at that film from the Jets game and going, hey, okay, on third downs, we can just every third down, if we just bracket Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins, we got a pretty dang good shot of forcing an incompletion or forcing a tough throw, or at least making them go somewhere that they don't want to do. So I think they need to have an answer outside of T. Higgins, outside of Ja'Marr Chase, whether that's Chase Brown, whether that's Noah Fant, whether that's, God forbid, Tanner Hudson or something like that. I think you need to have a very intentional plan, because I think it would be foolish to assume that the Bears are not looking at that going, Ja'Marr Chase just torched the Steelers and torched the Jets for 2.5 quarters. And then look what happened. Suddenly they couldn't operate the offense as soon as you started doubling up and they had to rely on Yoshivas. Hey, I'd rather have 8 targets to Yoshivas than 17 to Ja'Marr Chase. Okay, well, we'll opt for that. So I think you will see more of that. especially if Jake Browning is in. But hopefully the run game thing that they've had is not a mirage, that they will be able to lean on that a little bit, that they'll be able to continue to kind of utilize these package plays where they just kind of have pre-snap reads built in for Joe Flacco, where he can try and make the defense wrong every single time. That's how you're going to find consistent offense. And I really think that's going to be the big thing, is even if you're not getting touchdowns, this could definitely be one of those games where going down and getting field goals can end up being the difference in the game when you do get the occasional touchdown, hopefully too. Because the Bears offense has had great explosive plays to Odunze, to DeAndre Swift. Like I said, the 10+ yard runs, he's top 5 in the league. But that is definitely the reason that they haven't been so successful on offense, despite those explosive plays, is because they have more of those 3 and outs, or they get in the red zone and then they take a sack, or they have a holding penalty and then they have to settle for a field goal, or they take them out of field goal range with that. So consistency is definitely an issue for the Bears offense. And if I had to say, it's probably the biggest weak point, that overall you have good players, you have a good scheme, but you do have a sort of rookie quarterback in a new scheme and who has general consistency accuracy issues. So that will lend itself to hopefully some fortunate breaks for the Bengals, and hopefully they can capitalize on the errant opportunities that are presented to them. That was a long one. Thank you all for letting me do my spiel. Thank you for paying attention to Know Thy Enemy. And like I said, next week we might look at the enemy from within a little bit.